Hello, folks. I am so bloody sorry for the delay. Everything, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Microphone and blue screen of death and all that. I am so sorry, but thank y'all for being here. And by next week, by God, let's hope we get it right. What I want to do today, uh, see, I'm not new to these hangouts. I'm new to dealing with the tech problems right before the thing starts, so bear with me. The focus I want to do today, if there's enough new people in the external chat on YouTube, I want to focus on answering questions. If not, we'll just talk about scroll sawing in general. And again, I sincerely apologize for the delay, 10 minutes. Thank everybody on the panel so much for being here. My brain is scrambled. I'm just gonna go down the line. See, anybody seeing this for the first time, please know this is not the usual scrolling with Charlie. This is pure mayhem on my end, and I need to shut up talking about it. I'm just gonna go down the line and have everybody introduce themselves from left to right. It is Donna Presley. You can unmute yourself.
Donna Presley, you can find me Donna's Wooden Art, Facebook. I do have Instagram, although I really don't get on it. YouTube, same thing. I actually get on there sometimes. And been scrolling for probably 15 years.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And if you don't mind remuting yourself only because of the audio problems we're having. Carl Taylor, I believe this is his first time ever doing a live Google Hangout, but unfortunately he has an echo when somebody else talks. So we're going to have to juggle around that, but I'm very happy to have him. I got to meet him in Atlanta as well as Donna Presley, and I'll get into that. Carl Taylor, go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'll mute myself so we don't echo.
Okay, I hope you can hear me now. All of y'all know Steve Carmichael. I live about 7 or 8 miles from Steve. Been scrolling steadily since 1994 when I bought my first RBI 26-inch Hawk. Glad to be here. This is my first Google Hangout, and hopefully y'all won't make fun of me too much, but we'll give it a shot.
All right,
okay, I'm muting right now.
Thank you. Oh, folks, I swear this gets better. It's been good history here. I'm going to move on. My distinguished, lovely co-host is not here, so I got Russell Clarity. Just kidding. Okay, Russ Clarity, if you'll please introduce yourself and slap me in the lip and send me medication.
Oh, so now it's payback for all those.
It's got to be.
I've been harping on you, huh? Okay. I see how this goes. Wait until tomorrow night.
Oh my God! It has to be some kind of karma coming back on me.
Well, at least you're laughing. Yeah. Let me tell you, folks, he was stressing. I mean, stressing trying to get this thing going. Trust me.
Because we've done it in the past and it always went so well. And the premiere of the Scroll with Charlie, and I'm going freaky.
Charles, you haven't learned yet. It will all go to pot when you try to go live.
I need to put vodka in my Dr. Pepper. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, I mean, it always happens. Anyway, I'm Russ Clarity. I'm with Simply Wooden Creations is my channel. You can find me Simply Wooden Creations on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, you name it. Just type in Simply Wooden Creations and you'll find me and my smiling face.
Diddly-do. Now, Russ, you can stay unmuted because you're covering the Q&A. That way, you don't have to flip back and forth between screens like.
We only got 3 people. I'm sorry, we only got 3 people watching.
I really hope you're kidding.
Hey, backs are heck, aren't they?
I mean, that would suck because of the technical problems I was having.
No, we have 40 people watching right
now. Wow! Thank y'all. I owe all of y'all probably $3 each. It'll get higher the more. Shut up, Charlie. Okay, we have. God help me, Jesus. Steve Carmichael. Now, a lot of y'all are probably wondering, Steve Carmichael's not known for scrolling. There's 2 reasons I added. Well, a few reasons. I love him to death in a very manly way. And Steve, you're welcome to unmute yourself. Carmichael. I love him to death, and he's a. I really needed to get onto that next sentence because it was turning wrong here. Okay.
I love you too, Charles.
Thank you. If I stink at keeping up with the videos, but I believe your last one was your Van Halen record album cover.
Yeah.
And he mentioned how he was having trouble with spirals, and I thought, how cool would it be to have a big name YouTuber on here that's not constantly on that scroll saw, and if he had any questions, we could help. And that's not to point you out because you screwed anything up, because you did very good. It's just you mentioned it, how aggressive that those could be, and I thought that would be a good thing. That and his name dropping. I say, yo, Steve Carmichael on the show. You want to sign for real? But I'll shut up long enough to let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Steve Carmichael in Atlanta, and my website's thecarmichaelworkshop.com. And pretty much all my scroll saw projects are on my YouTube channel. I don't have that many, but so I'm kind of new to it. And yeah, when I made that Van Halen logo, it was all straight lines, and trying to cut that with a spiral blade was, I don't know, a challenge.
I've never used a flat blade, but I would imagine it's somewhat hard to hurt. Take two. I imagine it's hard to cut a straight line with any kind of blade. Are any of you straight blade users in agreement with that?
That it's harder to cut a straight line with a spiral?
No, not harder than a spiral, but cutting a straight line in general is hard with any blade, isn't it?
Not with a straight blade.
Especially with a diamond-coated blade.
Well,
I do fine with a straight blade. It's just trying to cut a straight line with a spiral. It's hard.
I'm pretty doggone proficient with spiral blades myself, but spiral blades are much more difficult to cut a straight line than flat blades.
Yeah.
10-4. Okay. Well, then I'll just stop trying to come up with guessing on flat blades. If you don't mind muting yourself, Carl, all due respect, it's only because of the echo. Thank you very much for coming on, Steve Carmichael. Steve, the bloody heck, I'm trying to keep this G-rated, or at least PG. Steve Good has joined us. Finally got to meet him after many, 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 many years. We hugged. Russ Clarity grabbed my butt, and then go ahead.
You just had to tell the world that, didn't you?
Well, Mark Christopher did too. But go ahead, Steve Good. It is a very honor to have you here. See, because I just learned to talk yesterday. Very glad to have you here. Please tell all 2 people in the world that don't know who you are all about you.
Hey, Charlie. Thanks for having me. I'm Steve Good. And I went out yesterday and bought me a new Harbor Freight scroll saw, and I'm hoping to learn how to use it sometime this weekend. So I figured I'd join the show and see if you guys can teach me something.
Okay, we got a severe buzz. Oh, that was Carl. Carl, that's a 1 demerit point. Steve, you can keep talking because of that buzz, if you don't mind.
Hey, Charlie, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, I can. I could sort of hear you before, but I want to make sure everybody else was able to hear it.
Yeah, I'm Steve Good. I write the Scroll Saw Workshop blog. Been doing it now for about 10 years. And God, Charlie's ugly.
Oh, God, that's why I put the glasses on. Well, that was a heck of a way to start. Yeah, that was the last appearance Steve Good ever had. Very good to meet you in Atlanta. I'll get to that as soon as we get done with the introductions, if I'll ever stop freaking out and buzzing and babbling. And thank you very much, Steve Good, for being here. It was beyond words getting to meet you. Trevor Carter is our only Canadian that I'm aware of, but he is a longtime scroll sawyer. I haven't got to talk to him in forever, and I'm very thrilled to have him here. And thank you for being here. Trevor, tell everybody all about you when I shut up.
Thanks for having me on, Charles. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the fun stuff under Trevor's Woodshop. I've been scrolling, I don't know, 5, maybe 6 years. Just like to dabble with it, I guess. Keeps me busy.
By golly. Good to have you. I started to imitate your accent, and I went British, so I'm just going to stop that. I'm going to jump on over to Russ Meadows, a surprise last edition. We thought he wasn't going to be able to make it. You're muted, Russ, but very glad to have you here. He's a Texas resident, so he's got to be good. Come on, Russ, talk.
Right on, right on.
Right on, baby boy. That sounded bad. I need to stop talking. Go ahead. Go ahead, tell everybody about you.
Yeah, Russ Meadows from Rusty Nails Wood Shop. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and just a teeny bit of YouTube, by gosh, and I'll get there.
And it is Rusty Nails with a Z for those that do not
With
know.
a Z.
With a
Hey,
Z.
for those of you, if you pay attention, there are 2 Russes on the panel and 2 Steves on the panel.
And 2 Charleses if you want to get technical.
If you
You lost me on that one. Where's the
where's the other Charles?
Donna changed her name?
Oh,
No,
Mine.
seriously, who's the other Charles? Why am I
Mine.
focusing on that?
I don't know, but I'm the other Charles and the other Russ. Ain't that
so your
something?
middle name's Charles?
My middle name is Russ.
Oh, so your first name's Charles.
Yeah.
I am so bloody lost. But let's get on with the show. All right. Okay. So, I'm loving it.
I'm not even all confused, and he's confusing me.
Episode 2, I think, will be much better, but the panel is still rocking. This is not to bully you, Carl Taylor, but everybody is welcome to unmute themselves. And Carl, the only reason is because of the echo that I can't have you unless we ask you something. Yeah. So everybody else on the panel, it is okay to unmute yourself because we don't have any sound issues. That way, when I ask a question of the panel, anybody can answer, and the camera will just pick up whoever's talking. So I think everybody's used to having to mute themselves. So Steve, good, and Donna Presley, you can unmute yourself, and Trevor Carter, you can unmute yourself. Charlie, get on with the show. Although Atlanta was not based on scroll sawing, everybody on this panel except for Trevor, I got to meet in person, and there's no word for it. And I think we just upset Carl Taylor, and I apologize for that. I didn't mean to laugh at that, Carl. I just know it's probably frustrating for you. But I don't want to dwell too long on Georgia, but I want to let everybody mention it if they so choose, because so many of us have been friends for so many years on YouTube, along with people in the outside chat. I got to meet a bunch of them, and that was beyond words. But if anybody here wants to talk about Atlanta right quick and what it did for them, blah, 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 go ahead and just speak at will. And if you hear somebody else talk first, let them talk, and by God, come on back.
Hey, Charles, I'll throw in my 2 cents there. I had a great time there. I know for a fact that I'm going to go back next year. Got to meet a lot of people, talk to a lot of guys that I've known for years and never had a chance to shake hands with, and I thought it was a blast. And the meet up with the YouTubers, whatever it was, Saturday night, I guess, that was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. Getting to meet. I'm an admitted fanboy when it comes to Steve Good. I mean, I didn't get all, oh my God. It was just really, you can't put words to finally getting to meet the person you've been talking to for years. And you built a really good friendship. It was that way when me and Russ Clarity met.
Yeah. I just wish we had more time to all get together and everything, but we were so busy.
Yeah, and I wanted to see you Saturday night, but I decided my brain was going to take a break. That's little anxiety issues. So, and Russ Meadows was kind enough to let me room with him because we're both straight. We both don't drink, and we both think I'm mental. Don, now this has nothing to do with scroll sawing, but I have to say this publicly. And this is not to necessarily exclude anybody that's not on the panel. The top person that was right. I'm sorry to be talking about my anxiety once again in public, but it can be crippling, and midway through Saturday on to early Sunday morning, basically it had me bedridden. My panic attacks were so bad, and the reason why I'm bringing that up publicly is I want to publicly very much thank Donna Presley for, she was right there every time I started to go downhill. She could sense it. She said she couldn't relate to it, but she even said in the outside chat before the show ever happened, or that before we ever went there, that she would be there, and she kept to her word, and that is beyond words. I love you to death, Donna.
Well, I love you too, and anytime.
And I appreciate that. And right behind her was Russ Clarity, but he had to finish chewing on his hamburger. But, me and Steve.
I not only got out so quick, I was chewing my hamburger. I had to chew it up real quick, but I got out so quick that I ran out there and I hugged Charles and we were talking and everything. And then finally he turned around and looked at me and he goes, I don't know if you know it or not. You got a big blob of ketchup in your beard.
I didn't know what it was. He had a big old red streak in his beard, and I didn't want to look fruity by wiping it out. I was okay by then. Steve Good and I talked about things. I won't go into his life because that's his private life, but he was supportive in discussing anxiety with me. I'll leave it at that. I don't know if anybody here deals with anxiety other than me, but the main reason I brought that up is to thank everybody here publicly that was there for me. Russ Meadows was also there for me. Mark Christopher was there for me, and Jamie Page, the guy I love, who he's on the accent. Get to the show, Charlie. Totally lost. Do we have any questions? Because that was gonna be the focus of the show, but they're probably all laughing at me right now. But
Actually, I do. Jeff Robinson wants to know, does anyone know where I can get a spec sheet on Flying Dutchman blades? In other words, for wood, metal, jewelry, aluminum.
I would think Mike'sWorkshop.com, I would believe. Would have
I don't know of an actual, I was going to say, I don't know of an actual spec sheet. Steve, correct me.
Well, I mean, when you said...
I was just going to say, you go to the site. What's the site name?
Mike's Workshop.
Yeah, Mike's Workshop. Sorry, lost it there. If you go to Mike's Workshop, .com and look on there, the specs for the individual blades are there. It'll say like for metal, for all kind of stuff. It'll tell you their size. All that spec information is there. But as far as an actual spec sheet, I don't know of one for Flying Dutchman blades.
And
what specifically does he want to know?
Yeah,
he didn't say. He just said, "Is there a spec sheet?" But all that information, if you'll go down there through them, that all the blades they're listed and they say what they're like. The scroll reverse, all those were listed, and it says what it's for, or what they will cut, or what they're for.
Yeah, they got teeth per inch and the diameter, and that I think. The numbered sizes tells you. Now, if I'm correct, the smaller the number, no, I'll be incorrect. Does any of y'all know how they do their numbering system? I know if it's got a slash in it, it's different from just a solid number. I use number 3 and number 5 spirals.
Smaller the number, the smaller the blade.
Yep.
Okay, what about when it has a slash in it, like a 2-aught?
Just smaller.
Okay. Okay, Trevor Carter. Trevor, do you have any feedback?
I'm not a spiral guy whatsoever. I usually use the flat blades, and mine's always been a number 2. Always. So that's just the size I prefer for pretty much everything, actually.
All right.
It's just what I've gotten used to.
Good deal. Appreciate that. Carl Taylor wants to talk, so I'm going to mute myself.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, you're right. A 8-aught is smaller than a 2-aught blade, or 2/0. And I have seen it as small as a 10-aught blades, my smallest I've seen. And I use small blades quite a bit. So I'm muting again.
10-aught? I've never heard of that. That's got to be half the size of a human hair.
Yeah.
My God.
Carl cuts a lot of puzzles, so when you're cutting puzzles, you want to take that curve and make it real small.
Yeah, I saw. So he had a very microscopic puzzle, only about this big, and it had. I think they were all in the shape of cats or something, but it was ungodly how small it was, and very small. I can't even do a two. I guess it's called a 2-aught, 2/0. I can't do that on my Hegner. The smallest I can go is a 3 without it breaking, because I cannot get that tension set without it feeling too loose.
The 2-aught and the 3-aught on my DeWalt, no problems at all.
Did you just call your wife a Hegner? You kiss your mom with that mouth?
I'm gonna have to scold Russ Clarity again in public. It is Hegner, not Hagner. They might have some at Rocklear if you want to check. But
Oh, there we go.
there we go, baby.
Jeff Robinson says a spec sheet like Pegasus and Olson. Once again, I don't know of a spec sheet for Blind Dutchman blades. I've never seen one. If you go to Mike's Wood Shop, it's actually changed a lot since the way it used to be, and go to the blades page, you will see all the blades lined up: two-way aluminum cutter, heavy duty, Iron Man jeweler, new spiral, penguin silver reverse, polar, scroll reverse spiral, spiral flat end, spiral reverse, scroll, a superior puzzle, ultra reverse, and XL. If you click on each one of those, they will tell you what they are good to cut and their size, what sizes they are.
Okay.
But as far as a spec sheet, I don't know of one.
Russ, after I asked Steve Good a question, if you don't mind taking the time, if you're already on that site, because that I announced it, with my big mouth, big mouth Bubba, if you're brand new, it's okay. You come here to learn. So maybe we can go through what each blade does, as quickly as possible without stepping over our own tongue like I'm known to do. But I believe Steve Good is an Olsen lover, aren't you?
No, I do the Pegasus and the Flying Dutchman.
Yeah, I was paying attention.
Yeah.
I love it. Help me, Lord. Well, I won't even ask Steve Carmichael. He just probably grabs whatever's there. But did you?
The first ones I bought were the Olsen. I went to Peachtree Woodworking, and they had on hanging on the rack, like, I don't know, 20 or 30 different ones. So I just picked about 5 different packs of different kinds just to try them, because I had no idea which ones to get. But I do have a question. Do you adjust and use blades with a higher TPI for thinner stock and lower TPI for thicker stock, like you would on a bandsaw?
I'll let them answer that.
That's pretty accurate. Yeah, it's
Yes.
It's definitely accurate in that it's similar to a bandsaw, especially when you're cutting metal, which was one of the questions he asked. You want a ton of teeth per inch.
Yeah. Okay.
That's good to know, and that's one of the things I think Russ Clarity will get into when we start talking about the different blades. But the reason why I go with number 3 and number 5 is I need the thickness, because I do such large projects. They last longer than the smaller ones. And when I first got into scroll sawing, I looked at the different kinds of blades, and it said this one can go in any direction. I'm thinking, to me, it was common sense in my mind to go with one that can cut in any direction. So that's why I went with it. But I've never touched a flat blade. So, and back when I did this before, people were challenging me to do a flat one, and I'm here lately. I have been doing some goofy videos. So that might be a good time to try to do a flat bladed project. But another thing I need to publicly thank Steve Good for, and I talked about a giveaway, but since I've never done a giveaway, I will need suggestions about the most reliable way of doing it, where everybody doesn't say, "Oh, you picked him because you like him or her." And I'm not saying every viewer's like that. Hello, they all just left. I'm kidding. There's 3 of them just left right when I said that. But anyway.
Hey Charles, if you're
Yes,
going to
sir.
do a giveaway, use gleam.io, GLEAM.io. It's all automated.
Now, should I do that live here on the air, or should I
No, I
tell them
think
to email me at such and such, and then I'll pick a winner?
You got to go set the giveaway up. If you're going to do it live, that's a different process.
Okay, then. See, that's what I get for being organized. Okay. Unless we have any viewer questions, let's go ahead and talk about the different kinds of blades.
I do have a viewer question.
Good.
I think it's the same guy, Jeff.
Robinson.
Yeah, his name didn't copy over, but anyway, he said, Steve Good, have you been using the new Seiko scroll saw, and what's your thoughts so far about it?
That's a very good question, Jeff.
I've used it for one project. I got it back, of course, after the Atlanta show and set it up that night. And so far, I haven't found but just one thing that concerns me, and that's the fact that they eliminated the rack and pinion gears underneath the table to adjust the table tilt. And that's not a huge concern because you really don't tilt the table that much unless you're doing a lot of bowls or something like that, or inlays. I talked to Ray about it, and he thinks that machine that I have is a pre-production model, and it's been used and abused and passed around and packed and unpacked many times. And the only problem I'm having with the rack and pinion not being there is when I go to tighten the knob down to set the blade back at 90 degrees, as you tighten the knob and it starts to tighten up against the frame, it actually wants to move the head a half a degree or a degree. So you kind of have to hold the head while you tighten it down. Now he's telling me that there's a couple things coming. One is the hardware will be manufactured better than the pre-production model I had, and the other is they're going to put positive stops on the frame to where you can go back to 90 degrees and just lock it in there. So they're working on that, and hopefully when the production models come out, they'll have that fixed. But the machine cuts great, very minimal vibration. I love the big table. The stand is built like a tank. I haven't found any negatives about it, but of course, you know, it is the Excalibur scroll saw just redesigned. So we already knew we had a good model to design from, and basically the head of the machine is the same as the Excalibur. So pretty positive. It's got the digital angle gauge built into it. That's okay. I don't mind that. It's not a feature that you would go out and make a decision on a machine for, but the fact that it's there, you might as well use it. Let's see, what else do I like? The table is very solid and heavy, and that's helping keep the vibration down. One thing that I like more than I thought I would was the magnetic cover on top of the table. It's very slick, which, if you're a scroll saw, you're constantly waxing the table or sanding it to get it smooth. And that insert or the cover is very smooth, so you're not going to have to worry about that. Another thing that I didn't think of until the meeting Monday night, that at the Gwinnett Woodworkers Association, is because that magnetic cover can be taken off and spun around. You could actually take it off, spin it around, drill a tiny hole, and use that for a zero insert table. And I talked to Ray the other night about that, and those covers are going to be somewhere in the $20 range. So they're cheap enough that you can have a couple extras, So it's a good machine. It's going to be a real positive influence on the hobby because when we lost the Excalibur scroll saw, that was a big problem because we need more than one saw at each entry level. You've got plenty of entry level machines. That's not a problem. But the mid level and the high end, you don't have as many choices. And losing the Excalibur would have really taken away a pretty good choice.
Well,
So,
I have a couple questions for you, Steve, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Number one, what was it, a corporate reason for getting rid of the Excalibur?
I can't go into details because some of it is confidential, but
Yeah.
basically it's a contract negotiation between General, who sold the machine here in North America, and the Taiwanese manufacturer.
That makes sense.
It's a long story with a lot of legal issues involved, so it's not worth. Everybody would fall asleep anyway.
Yeah, and that's what I meant by corporate. I assumed it was something like that. Sorry, Russ Meadows, you were talking. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to find out if it's going to be in the same price point as the Excalibur.
$929 with the full stand.
But not too bad
Yep.
for what you get.
I was expecting $1,200. When Ray and I first talked about it and he was in negotiations, I thought we were going to see that price point. But he was able to make some changes. And in all honesty, that may be where the loss of the rack and pinion came from. Ray suggests that he made that decision based on the fact that a rack and pinion has slop in it. So when you go to put it back to 90 degrees or 7 degrees or whatever, you could be off a half a degree. I don't personally follow that opinion because I think the rack and pinion was a very positive feature. But he said the free floating head where you just loosen the knob and move it is more accurate. And, I'll wait and see on the production model if that holds true. On the pre-production model, it's not true. It's harder to get it back to zero. You can get it there. You just have to be a little more diligent than you did with the rack and pinion.
And I'm guessing that the fact that it has that free movement without the rack and pinion, that's why they included the angle gauge built into the arm.
Yeah, I won't say that. I think the angle gauge is a checkbox. You know how when you see advertising online, like especially from phone companies, they give you 37 different things that they include as features, and they put a checkbox. It's like everybody's trying to have more check boxes than the next guy. So it's not that it's a bad feature, and it's not something I don't like. It's just not one of those features like, toolless blade change or, plain end blades. It's not one of those features that is going to make or break your decision on whether you buy it or not. And basically the cost of adding it was, practically nothing. So
yeah. The other
Steve,
question,
real quick, what about parts for the Excaliburs that are out there? Is Ray going to continue to carry a line of parts for those?
Yeah, and there's a lot of confusion right now. Unfortunately, Scroll Saw Woodworking and Crafts Magazine mentioned that parts will be a problem for the Excalibur, and that's just simply not true. The manufacturer in Taiwan is the one who's making this saw for Ray over at Seiko, and they have a large supply of parts still on hand. And if you think about it, the new Seiko machine, 99% of the parts on the Seiko are the same as they are on Excalibur. So, and plus you have to understand they also make the Excalibur under different brand names in Europe. So those parts, are plentiful right now. Ray has a large stock in his store already, and the Taiwanese manufacturer has guaranteed that won't be a problem. And honestly, from what I know, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think if you have an Excalibur saw right now, you're going to be fine with it for the next several years. I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. Might be wrong, but that's my opinion right now.
I think anybody that has seen or dealt with Seiko, if nothing else, I mean, their product speaks for themselves, but Ray as an individual and Seiko as a company, they rock when it comes to customer service. And I know, pretty sure Steve will back me up on that. There's a problem, they jump on it. I mean, it's second to none. For every company I've ever heard about, Seiko is tops of the list.
Well, and that's why I always try to convince people if they were going to buy an Excalibur to buy it through Ray, because Woodcraft's a great store, but you're not going to get the same support. If you call Ray and you've got too much vibration or the blades are cutting too aggressively or something like that, he knows from hands-on experience how to fix it. If you walk in Woodcraft and you're talking to one of their salesmen, they may have never touched a scroll saw in their life. So it's a great store, but they're just not, it's not the same thing when you've got an individual who's selling a machine and that's his livelihood. He knows that Excalibur inside and out. So
well, one question, sorry.
Go through him.
One question I had, you mentioned on the Seiko, and that's one regret I have, is that I spent so much time socializing and panicking that I never really stopped and watched you use that saw. So I guess I'm kind of curious, what is the purpose of that magnetic cover?
I think the purpose was a design decision based on how they built the actual tabletop. To get the extra cut height, and that machine cuts, what is it, 2.5 inches? It's by far the thickest cutting saw on the market. And to get that extra height, they had to change the bracket that the table mounts to. So if you'll notice, if you pull that cover off, there's a hole, and I'm making this up because I haven't talked to Ray about this specifically, but this is just what I think. There's a hole in that tabletop, and I think the cover was like, how are we going to fix that hole? It's what I think it was. So I think it might have been an afterthought. Like I said, Ray could tell us better, and I'll ask him the next time I talk to him. And that's why when I first saw it, I thought the same thing. Why would you put a magnetic cover on it? Other than for branding or something like that. But then when I pulled it apart and I saw that hole under there, my initial impression was that was put there to get rid of the deficiency of the hole in the table. So, but like I said, in the end result is how well does it work, and it works fine. It's very durable. You're not going to tear it up easily. And the fact that if it's only $20 and you can replace it, for that price, and they don't have them available yet, but that's what he said he thinks it's going to sell for.
Well, that being said, though, I mean, if you say it may have been an afterthought, maybe that's something. If it was an afterthought because of the hole in the table, do you think that they'll redesign that tabletop to not need the magnet?
At this point, I think anything's possible, because there's, this company in Taiwan that's building this machine, which, obviously built the Excalibur. They're very concerned about losing the North American market. They have a huge interest in making sure that they can still sell that machine in this market. I mean, it's by far the biggest market in the world for scroll saws. So they're not going to walk away from it easily. I'm actually amazed that they put up with the contract struggle and were back ordered for whatever it was, 9 months, 10 months. I don't know how they let that happen unless the legal issues just kept it from happening. But I don't think there's any doubt they're going to support that machine. So anything could change and it wouldn't surprise me.
And I know you said there's things you can't say, but I think in any big company, and I consider Seiko to be a big company, that when you deal with outside entities, there's always going to be hiccups and things out of your control, and you work with them the best you can, trying to maintain the customer service.
Yeah.
But I noticed this. I'll try to stop asking all the questions here, but I noticed, if memory serves me correctly, it looked like there was like a round, almost like a round grid design on there. Do you know that purpose?
Yeah, Ray designed that personally. When the Taiwanese manufacturer came to Ray and wanted him to start selling this product, they gave him some pretty good deals as far as him having input into the changes. So that was a change that basically all the changes you see came from Ray's customers over the years asking him if they could have this and that. So that bullseye is there to help you line up the hole with the blade. Now, again, it's another one of those features that I'm going to have to use it for a while. I'm a bottom feeder, so it's basically there for top feeders. I don't have in my mind yet why that's important, but we'll see. I'll use it for a while and tell you.
I have a guess, and I was hoping you would answer that, but at least I need to start over. I'm coming down. Excuse me. Whenever I tried to make a bowl or a vase on a scroll saw, anybody hadn't seen that, I have a video. Check out my channel. Anyway, I would always draw like a circular grid on the wood blank, because if you're using a spiral blade like I do, it helps you know that you're equally turning it around. So with that grid being on the table, of course, if it's too big, it's being covered, but it lets you know that you've turned a quarter of a turn, because sometimes your feed rate is slower or faster than you're turning the wood blanks. That may have played into it, but I love the fact that it seems like Seiko seems to be the best at listening to customer feedback. Now, I think the next thing we're going to hear is they're going to have a cup holder for your beer. By God.
What I would love to see is custom logos on that top. That would be great.
Oh, that'd be awesome. One thing I would love to find, and this is just me, because people say, how long does that take you to make? I suck at keeping track of time. I'd love to have an automatic counter that tells you when it's powered on and
I'm working
up and
on
down.
that, Charles.
All right, dag
I'm
nabbit.
working on that right now.
Okay, when you give me that Seiko, also give me one of those.
Okay.
Because I would love to have that, and I want it to be where only, I mean, yes, it can have a reset button, but when that saw is going up and down cutting something, I want to know how many hours I physically cut, not when I
The one that I'm
take a
working
break.
on will work off your foot switch. So as you push on the foot switch, your dead man switch, it'll count and it'll stop as soon as you let go. That's what I'm working on right now.
Oh, this is you personally working on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'd like 6 of them, and Bill Russ Clarity for that, please.
Add mine to his bill.
All right, we got several questions over here. So,
Oh, okay. You're welcome to interrupt me or anybody, Russ, whenever we have questions.
well, you won't be quiet long enough for me to interrupt you. Anyway, Joseph Poindexter wants to know what time frame are we looking at for the new saw, the Seiko saw, to be out?
Middle of May.
Middle of May. Okay. Brad Matthews wants to know, will these new Seiko blade holders fit the Excalibur?
You had to define that question. Is he talking about the thumb screws? Because yes, they're gonna fit.
I'm just, all right. So Brad Matthews, you got to define that question.
I know the inventor of those neural knobs was at the show, and it's Steve Good introduced me to him.
Marcus Bailey.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see. Titanic River Woodcrafting. Any thoughts on a Shopsmith scroll saw? As far as a Shopsmith, I think they're talking about an attachment for a Shopsmith that has a scroll saw.
My dad had, I believe it's called a jigsaw when it comes to the Shopsmith. I could be wrong, but my dad has one, and
Yeah,
he hated it.
Yeah, I haven't heard any good or bad. I know that they exist, but I haven't heard any good or bad things. They're kind of like one of these things in the dark. I mean, Steve, you heard about a Shopsmith attachment of the scroll saw?
Yeah, I pulled up a picture of one. Hang on, I'll see if I can do a screen share.
Is
Let
it
me,
any good?
let
You
me
know
keep-
that part?
Let me keep the camera on you, Steve.
It
so
looks
people can
like
see it.
this right here. Can you see my screen share yet?
Not just
Yes.
yet.
Yeah.
Oh wow, wow, that is a big improvement from the last one I saw.
Yeah, it is to me too.
Wow, that's got me
Any,
speechless.
have you heard any good or bad things about that, Steve?
No, I don't have any information on the scroll saw part of it.
In my opinion, Shopsmith is quality. I mean, because they make, what's the word? Strong, dependable tools, and they learn from their mistakes. So I would guess it would be a good saw. Maybe the guy asking, was he asking because he has one and wanted to know of his opinion?
He didn't say that. He
Okay.
didn't say, but I'm guessing that. Yeah, I know several people. I've had several friends over the years that's owned Shopsmiths, and they are fantastic. Fantastic. They're not only a saw; they're a multi-item. You can get a planer or a joiner with it, a table saw with it, a belt sander with it. So, yeah, I mean, they're a good tool. They're not they're a very well built tool.
Yeah,
you can
Shop,
get the Shopsmith. You can get the Shopsmith scroll saw as a standalone unit.
Oh crap,
Wow.
Charles, we're rubbing off on Steve.
and that's sad in itself. But I lost my train of thought. Take over.
All right. This Carl 533-15530 or whatever. Anyway, he wants to know what's the best scroll saw I'm going to purchase a new one. That's a loaded question. It depends on how much money you have or are wanting to spend.
And how often you use it.
Yeah, so I mean, you can get a Harbor Freight and it's cheap and it's a piece of junk. It makes a good boat anchor. Or you can, a middle line would be what is it? Not the Dremel, the Porter Cable. The Porter Cable is like a low end, but it's a pretty good one. I've heard some good things about the Dremel on a low end. It's a pretty good one. The midline would be a DeWalt 788.
Most common
That's
that
a
I've
good
heard
one.
of.
Then you're jumping up there to the Seiko,
Jet.
fairly expensive. How do you say it? The Hagner, Hagner,
Hegner.
the Hagner.
Yeah, and those can be bought through ADV, Adam Delta Victor is the letters ADV, machinery.com.
Once again, it depends on how much money you got and how much you're willing to spend, because I just listed off a bunch of them.
Well, the reason why I want to explain why I said it depends on how often you use it, because, okay, yes, the Harbor Freight may vibrate more than a DeWalt, but a DeWalt will hold up longer because it's built better, and that's why it costs more. And like I have a Hegner, and I have almost no issues with it. I had an older one, and the switch went out, blah, blah, blah. But I think all of us would agree that scroll a lot, that you get what you pay for, unfortunately. And that's not always the case with the tool, but when it comes to scroll saws, it is. Does anybody disagree with that?
I do not disagree at all.
Okay, the check's in the mail. Go ahead.
Hey, Charles.
Yes, sir.
There's an issue going on now with one of the higher end scroll saws. Everybody's familiar with the new Jet scroll saw, or new within the last year.
Mhm.
Has anybody heard of the issue with the scroll reverse blades in a Jet scroll saw?
No.
They don't work. The
Wow.
reverse teeth don't come high enough to come up from underneath the table. It's going to be a big issue. I've been trying not to bring it up, but I think I'm going to have to before too long.
Well, I don't think you're blatantly slamming Jet. That's just a mistake. Jet. Well, I don't know if all manufacturers take in mind the styles of blades, because I thought the standard length that the blade manufacturers would evenly disperse those teeth,
Well,
but I guess not.
I use scroll reverse almost exclusively because I hate the sand, and I think most people out there do the same thing. And the fact that they put a machine out that the scroll reverse blades don't work with is a big problem. And right now they're not willing to do anything about it. So I'm
Not
kind of
willing?
looking into some more details, so we'll see what happens. But that's what the reason I brought that up is because we're talking about, you know, the value of a high-end versus a low-end scroll saw. Well, if you buy a high-end scroll saw and it doesn't do what you want it to do, then it's no value at all. So yeah, you usually get what you pay for, but not unless you do your research.
Now, I don't want to, well, let's be real here. Nobody here is represented by a company that I'm aware of when it comes to scroll saws. Steve might be, so you don't have to answer. But that kind of disappoints me in a way. You said they weren't willing to work with it. Are you saying they don't see it as a big enough problem? Or was that some kind of official answer? Or
well, it's only official in that one of their customers called them and questioned them about it, and their response was they don't plan on fixing it. So,
wow.
You know, that's secondhand knowledge. I wasn't on that phone call, but
I mean, yeah, that is a single
pretty reliable
customer,
source.
but you know, that is a big hindrance for people like you that are.
I'm getting ready to go out in the shop. Actually, it's something I'm working on right now. I'm getting ready to go in the shop tonight, and I want to look at the situation and see exactly why. Because, you know, on that jet scroll saw, like the Excalibur, you can adjust the travel of the blade by adjusting the motor. If you've got an Excalibur or a jet scroll saw, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I want to go out and see if there's a possibility that maybe the adjustment's causing part of that problem and try to figure out how easy it would be to fix. A lot of times there's a DIY solution to these problems, and I'm going to look at it a little closer tonight and see if I can figure it out.
All righty. And I apologize if I backed you in the corner saying that you might have a scroll saw company representative.
The only thing I get is they give me these scroll saws. So, you know, it's not like they're paying me, other than the fact they're giving me the machine to put in my number one spot. So
First world problems.
Yeah, and well, it's one of those things where it doesn't affect me that much because I've got so damn many scroll saws. Them giving me one more isn't that big a deal.
Yeah, if there's any sponsors watching, you know, I don't mind. Throw me stuff. Just saying. Of course, if they see this first show how I started it out, then we're screwed. Go ahead.
The new jet blade holders will not fit on the Excalibur, correct?
That's correct. It's a different design.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, we got one that was way back there, and hopefully he's still out there. But
was it by Kid Moon?
I can't get Charles to be quiet long enough to answer him. Anyway, Charlie Hayes wants to know, what is the best way to take a logo and turn it into a pattern? That would take forever. I mean, you can do it. There's several programs out there. You can do it through Inkscape. You can do it through Corel. You can do it through Paint Shop Pro. You can do it through GIMP. I mean, there is I don't think there's a best way. There are many different ways.
You could also do it on paper. And
yeah,
I'll get into that in here in a second, but I'll let Russ finish, and I heard somebody else get ready to talk.
Yeah, so I mean, there's several ways. So it's kind of like a loaded question. It depends on the logo. If it's like a real good, clear, crystal clear logo with not a lot of, well, even if it's got color, but you could take it into Corel Draw and have it do a trace on it, and that works out pretty good on a lot of stuff. I mean, that's almost a whole show in itself, so to speak. So,
hey Charles, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Can you see my screen share?
Yes, sir.
There's an Apple logo for whoever asked that question. You just click on it. You go up here to trace bitmap. Now you've got it in a vector format. You can get rid of the pieces you don't need. And then make it any color you want, put an outline on it, move the little leaf down, weld it together. That's Corel Draw. You can do the same thing in Inkscape, which is free.
Right, either one of those. So,
but there are lengthier tutorials than what Steve just did, because my brain just took a break and went outside to smoke a cigarette when he was saying all that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's kind of like a long question. You could spend a whole show teaching how to do that. So, and
that'd be awesome, because there are a lot of methods for making scroll saw patterns, and that is something we will talk about on this show. Maybe not this episode, but does anybody on the panel have a question, and are there any more in the outside?
Hey Charles, I've got something if you got a minute.
Carl's got one.
I'd love to teach you something there, Steve. Go ahead.
Can everybody see this DVD I'm holding up?
I can.
Oh, yeah.
Charles Deering released 2 DVDs this week. and I got to watch the first one, and this is my copy of it that I just got in the mail today. If you're interested in making portrait-style scroll saw patterns, go buy these DVDs tonight. First of all, they're cheap. This one's $10. I think his other one's $15. And what makes these so different and so good is it doesn't require any computer knowledge. He does everything with pen and paper and tracing. And this is by far the easiest way to do it if you're not familiar with computer software, if you're not into CorelDRAW or Inkscape or any of those other programs. This is going to be the way you can take your photographs and turn them into a pattern. The second DVD, which I don't have yet, Charles included 2 of his patterns for free. So for $15, you're basically getting an hour-and-a-half tutorial for free because the patterns are worth more than that. So if you're watching out there, go to my website and you can find a link to order these. And
yeah, I'm still working on getting them on my website. Thank you so much, Steve. And I want to thank Steve because, okay, I know 99% of the people watching that scroll know Steve Good. And he put out a video showing how he makes scroll saw patterns with using GIMP. And I'm sitting here cussing and spitting saying, why the crap didn't I think of that? And so and I'm talking G-rated. And I actually wrote to him. I said, Steve, I'm basically writing to ask if I can steal your idea. and the DVD was born. Now, I have no graphics knowledge whatsoever. So, Steve, I mean, the sticker design is mine. It's not a sticker. It's just the cover. But I designed the cover. But Steve, I sent him some graphics, and he designed the inner sleeve with some ugly guy right here, but what can he do? He designed the disc itself, and I am blown away by this. And so because of him, I walked myself through designing the second CD. Now the first one, the premise, thank you again, Steve. The premise, somebody's echoing. They will be shot after the show. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
I was going to say, when I first met Charles years ago, what I thought was interesting, see, I've been scroll sawing since 79 or 80. I purchased my first scroll saw in like 1980, I believe it was, because my first daughter was born in 79. But anyway, when I first met Charles and I discovered how he made his scroll saw patterns, I don't know if he remembers this or not, but I thought it was so unique because that's back years ago when I started scrolling, you didn't have computers. You had to create your patterns and tracing by tracing the same way Charles does. So I've been doing that for years, but I thought it was so unique to actually meet somebody that actually not only could do it, but took it to the next level and does it as well and as good as Charles does. I mean, it's just fantastic.
Well, thank you, sir. But the reason why I'm laughing is because my method was born out of sheer ignorance. I can't grasp, I cannot grasp computer programs worth a crud. Although in the back half of this, not back half, but the second half of the video and this DVD and the other DVD, which I'll get into, it shows how I convert them colored in and cleaned up and how I display them online. That is the reason you see them colored in, is so the average person can see what it would look like cut out. And that's why you will see, you can't see them real well because they're not real big, but you'll always see the wood grain version of my designs. But so the second half of both DVDs, not necessarily half, but the second portion of the DVDs show me coloring them in, cleaning them up, and how I go about doing that. But since the DVDs talk about that, I won't go into so much detail, but the difference between this CD or DVD and the second DVD is this one is about a basic portrait design. The second DVD is working on it on vehicles, and we're getting an echo again. And that's 2 shots for that person. Anyway, just kidding. I wish I had the other one here, but I didn't know I couldn't get a free copy of each. I had to order the second one, so it hadn't gotten here yet. But it has a different look to it, different design to it, so you won't get confused. But again, this one's a simple portrait design. Next one is about doing vehicles because of texture and lighting and how that changes. And future ones will be specifics like although this one's about portraits, you have people say, well, how do you do eyes? How do you do noses? How do you do mouths? Probably the next one in line is going to be something like individual features of people and the different ways of doing those. But I believe that's it. And that's also leads me into the giveaway. I am giving away one of each one of these DVDs. So you will win 2 DVDs as soon as we set up how to do that. And be on the lookout or the listen out for that, because I talked about doing a giveaway, so I should probably figure out a way while we're on the show. But that's what the giveaway is this and the other DVD. I hope you will find that worthy of considering it a prize. And if you think I'm worth 2 poops, I will sign it for you. Thank you for the advertisement there, Steve Good. Thank you very much. I have gotten about 20 sales each so far.
Cool.
Thank you. And it got really quiet. No questions? Okay.
No, that was the last of the questions I had pulled from the chat over on YouTube.
I think Carl has a question. I see his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know they had to mute themselves first. Carl's a special kind of person. We got to mute ourselves so he can talk.
Can y'all hear me now? Okay. Last Monday at the Scroll Saw meeting that Steve Good presented, he introduced us to these. I'll put it closer. And I'll let him explain it a little bit further if he doesn't mind. So I'm muting again.
That is, and I've talked a little bit about it on my website, but that is a coin cutting jig. If you're interested in cutting coins, in this case, that's a quarter. A lot of people do the quarters because they cut the state designs in the state quarters, and that's just a 3D printed jig to hold the quarter while you cut it. And that file is available on my website in my e-store. It's free. You can just download it. The only problem is you got to have a 3D printer or access to a 3D printer to print it. It's a lot of fun. They're easy to cut. They're easier to cut than you think if you use the right blade. And they make nice little pieces of jewelry. And it's like I tell people, if you can turn a quarter into $10, that's a pretty good deal. So if you make a nice little necklace out of a quarter and you sell it at a craft show or something, it's a pretty good value.
Yeah, I tried to cut a coin once with a spiral.
No, that's not going to work.
No, no.
And actually, you'll go through more than one blade normally.
Oh,
yeah,
that's what I was talking about earlier. Spirals are awesome for what they're used for. Somebody's echoing again. That's 3 shots. But they don't last as long as a flat blade because they flex in every direction. And like any piece of thin metal, if you're flexing it a lot, it will break. Okay, somebody's teasing me with all these sound effects.
Your jeweler's blade doesn't last. I mean, they cut pretty good if you're careful with them, but I'd say you go through at least three, maybe a little bit more cutting a quarter easy.
Oh, yeah. And the key is not to try to turn them. Use the technique where you back out of a cut and then instead of making a right angle or a greater turn, when you get to that turn, back out and come at it from another direction. You nibble the pieces away more than you cut them away.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll go ping just as soon as you try to do a little turn.
Yeah, and anybody that's used to scrolling has had their wits scared out of them when a blade breaks, not because it costs a lot, but because it usually makes a little bit of racket. Y'all don't have to stay muted anymore. It was only because of when Carl talks, it echoes.
When you said that, I was scared. I did a little scroll saw thing for the ladies, a ladies group of about 8 here. I don't remember how many months back before December, but anyway, and I didn't get the blade tightened down in the holder real good. So within about 60 seconds of me starting to scroll, they're all gathered around and watching because they're real interested. And the blade slipped off, and that thing went, and I thought all those women were going to have a heart attack.
Mercy me, huh?
They scattered like mice had been dropped on the floor.
I almost soiled my girdle.
You had to be there, but it was funniest thing. That thing come up and was, how it even if you got your foot on the pedal, it takes a second to let go, and it makes that noise. Well, it bounds back and forth, and
Yeah, we've had our debate on the pedals.
Oh,
We'll
that
get
was
into that
fun.
in a future show.
They didn't
I-
want to come. They didn't want to come back. And when I hooked it back up, I said, I'm sorry, I'll hook it back up. And they're like, no, that's all right. We don't want to. We've seen enough.
It's gonna bite you, Ethel. Get away. I'm gonna run down the line one at a time, starting with Donna Presley. What is your go-to blade brand and style?
I really don't have a go-to blade. I use the Flying Dutchman, the 3s, the 5s, and the if I cut portraits, anything like that, it's a spiral blade that's the flat end.
Okay, when do you find yourself using flat-ended blade or not flat-ended, flat blades?
Flat blades, music boxes, clocks.
Things where you want a straight line, basically.
Yes.
Okay, that made too much sense. That's why I asked. Okay, I'll mute myself. Colonel Taylor, what is your go-to blades brand and style, and why?
Can all the listeners hear my feedback? I'm just wondering. I'll buy a new webcam this week, so I'll repair the problem.
I don't hear it, Carl.
Okay, good. It must just be Charles then. You know how those Texas folks are.
No, it was.
Hey,
Wait
a minute.
I was hearing it.
I take offense at that remark.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't feedback; it was echo.
Okay, well, my go-to blade is probably the one I use the most is a number 3 reverse tooth blade. I don't have a preference between the maker, but I do know that the Flying Dutchman blades, when you're actually using them, it's a lot louder than the crown tooth blades for some reason. I just never understood why it's louder. Do y'all have any feedback on that? I'm going to mute again.
No.
He had to use the word feedback. That's irony right there. I don't have any feedback because I don't know.
No, I've not noticed that. I had to check it.
I mainly asked this question so that Steve Carmichael and Trevor Carter could say something every now and then. But I'm going to go ahead and go in order. But Russ, not Clarity, the other one, Meadows. What? You know what I'm asking.
What was the question? Everything from the top. All right.
Okay, what's your go-to brand and style and why?
Oh, I use Flying Dutchman exclusively. If like Donna said, if I'm doing a portrait or something like that, then I almost always use a spiral blade for that. But the flat ends, that doesn't matter to me. I use the new spirals from Flying Dutchman, and I have no problems with those whatsoever. They don't come out of the clamps, and I have good luck with them. For just about everything else, I use a flat blade because I've only been scrolling for probably maybe 2 or 3 years, and I have not mastered the spirals on making a straight line with them. Just can't seem to get that done right. But I use, like I said, for portraits, that's my only ones, and on the straight blades, I use 1s and 3s with the straight blades, and spirals. I go all the way down to 3/0. Just depends on what piece I'm cutting.
10-4. All right.
And I want to make one thing clear for Jeff Robinson, if he's still listening. He had spoke to me a while back. We were talking about blades and such, and I told him I use Flying Dutchman exclusively, and I had some Olsons somewhere still in a package, and I said I was going to give them to him, and I hadn't been able to find them yet. But as soon as I find them, they're his. I'm going to give them away. I don't want those old. And one of them was a package of crown tooths, and I can't remember what the other ones were. But I bought them at Woodcraft when I didn't know anything, and I had a Harbor Freight saw at that time, and I put them back and quickly got Flying Dutchmans, and I've been cooking ever since.
Rock and
As
roll.
soon as I find them here, he's got them.
10-4. Mr. Russ Clarity, what blade manufacturer and style do you go to the most, and why?
I'll answer that, and then I got a couple of questions that we need to ask too, real quick. Flying Dutchman. I don't use anything else but Flying Dutchman. I've used Olson. I've used Pegasus. I've used Pegasus. Oh, if you don't have anything other than a Craftsman blade or something like that, then I would go for an Olson or Olson blade. But Flying Dutchman for me are the best. And then my blade of choice would be either a number 1 or a 3 ultra reverse. I can cut 3/4 inch oak, cherry, mahogany. I do crosses all the time with very, very intricate cutting, and with a number 1. You have to take your time. You can't push it. You can't rush it. But the ideal thing with a number 1 ultra reverse, by cutting with it that small, you don't get any blade marks in there, and also there's virtually no sanding. I mean, it comes out as smooth as a baby's behind. So I will use a
Herbert.
I jump up to a number 3 when I can't cut the material with a 1. Other than I stay with a 1.
Okay, Russ, I know you said there was a couple questions, but in fairness, let me go ahead and finish with the other
Okay.
guys, and then we'll jump back to you, if you don't mind memorizing those. There will be
I
a
got them
test.
on notepad. I can't lose them.
10-4, much obliged. Steve Carmichael, I know you're not known for scrolling, but do you have a go-to style or brand? Like we talked about.
Yeah, like I said, the first blades I bought were Olson from Peachtree Woodworking. And the one I pull out the most is a reverse tooth blade. I like using that one because it's less sanding. But I also got some blades from Fabian, Fabian's Tiny Workshop, if you watch him on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
And he sent me some from Germany, and they're called Nigua Fix. Have you ever heard of those?
As a matter of fact, that not a lot of people know this. That is the people who make Flying Dutchman. Flying Dutchman is a brand. That is the company that makes them.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he
Wow.
sent me some number 3 and number 7. So I use those for thicker wood.
I for the longest time, I've been trying to remember. I know that there was a company in Germany that made them, but I couldn't think of them, and that was it. Thank you. You just threw a light bulb over my head.
Yeah, cool.
Rock and roll. Now, not a lot of people knew that. Steve Good, God knows how many blades he uses, but let's ask him. Hi, Steve.
Well, my favorite brands are the Flying Dutchman and the Pegasus. But I'll be honest with you, I'm using only Pegasus right now simply because I have to try new things so I can tell people what I think of them. Plus, I get them for free, so that doesn't hurt either. And so I use the Pegasus modified geometry for almost everything I cut right now. But I don't find those blades any better than the Flying Dutchman. To me, they're pretty equal. I want to do another screen share here real quick. Hang on just a second.
While you're doing that, I'm going to ask in jest, is there anything you don't get free, Mr. Celebrity Man?
Well, some things, yeah.
Go ahead.
Can you see my screen share yet?
Yeah.
Well, I only bring that up, not to brag, but I only bring that up because I don't want people to take my opinion without knowing that I didn't pay for it. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
You're going to be biased if you don't pay for something, and I'm biased on these things. I just want people to know that.
Yeah, that's good to know.
But anyway, here, can you see my screen share now?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if it's quality, if the quality is going to be good enough, but these are the different brands that I tested under a magnifying glass. And as you go down, you can see that the Flying Dutchman, the Pegasus, and the Pegasus Modified Geometry are clearly the superior built blades.
Most definitely. That abolition skill look.
I did go back and I checked out several different batches just to make sure, because when I first did this, I only used one batch of blades. And, some people questioned the fact that I did that. So I went back and pulled out several different batches of these blades, and it stayed pretty consistent like this the whole time. And you can see that Pegasus Modified Geometry is almost a perfectly made blade. It's just almost perfect. Now, here's the difference. If I cut with that Flying Dutchman blade and I cut with that Pegasus blade, you can't physically tell the difference when you're cutting. You can physically see there's a difference, but it's not enough of a difference that I could tell the difference when I was making a cut. So,
and those aren't all the same exact blades are they? And the reason why I asked, and I don't mean brand name, but because I noticed the Pegasus is showing more teeth. Is that because it's a different magnification or different?
It's a different magnification. They're all scroll reverse blades except for the modified geometry. It's just that it was hard when I tried to get this underneath my magnifying thing. It was hard to get them lined up and all that stuff. So the pictures aren't perfect.
But anyway,
I use the Pegasus modified geometry. I probably use a number 3 and a number 5 the most.
All right. Yeah, that Bosch and the skill were laughable on those blades there. Trevor Carter, I haven't heard from you in a while, sir.
My go-to blade is, as I was saying earlier, the number 2 Pegasus reverse tooth blade. That's what I use on everything. It don't matter if I'm trying to cut 3/4 inch piece of walnut or a 1/4 inch piece of oak. I'm just so used to doing it that way.
Alrighty. Thank you for answering that. And I'll throw one last question to the panel, and you can all answer at random, and then Russ can go to those questions. Are there any blades you don't like? Not brand, but style. And that was a resounding. So I guess everybody.
I don't think I've ever tried anything but like a reverse style. I think I do have 2 or 3 different blades out there that have a pile of teeth on them, but I've never really had to bother using them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've used everything pretty much because back in the day there wasn't no Flying Dutchman and Pegasus and all them. You had to use my first scroll saw was a Craftsman. So guess what blades I used? Craftsman. So and they were pinned in. They didn't even make non-pin blades. So
and I think pinned in does have its place. You can't go as small on intricacy, but they are stout. They stay in place.
Oh yeah, they will cut and cut straight and cut very well. As far as if you're just cutting something,
Yeah, you're really limited.
Yeah, if you're just cutting like a pattern where it's on the outside and it's a fairly big pattern, yeah, they work great. There's nothing wrong with them. You just can't cut the smaller stuff with them. But I think a lot of people I've heard people say that they tried the Flying Dutchman blades and didn't like them, and I tell you why. That I think I finally figured out because I branched off and have tried Olson and several of the others. I haven't tried Pegasus. That's the one I haven't tried yet. But anyway, and I found that the Flying Dutchman blades are very aggressive. Okay, compared to your Craftsman, compared to your all the other ones, they're very aggressive. So I think that's why people have a hard time. They've cut with others and they come to the Flying Dutchman and it cuts great as far as I'm concerned. And they're going like, oh crap, this thing is like out of control. But it's really not. It's just a very aggressive cutting blade.
Yeah,
that's really sharp.
Yeah, real quickly, Steve Good, I wanted to say this publicly because I got to thinking how it might have come across. When I called you Mr. Celebrity Man and getting all this stuff for free, that's envy. That's not, there was no negative intentions behind that. It's just, it's pure envy. I mean, and I know not everything's based on subscriber counts, but if anybody cares, he has over 24,000 subscribers. He is a king in the scrolling community because he gives a heck of a lot more than he gets. And I think he deserves everything that's given to him. I'm just highly envious, and I'm going to go cry after the show.
That's not what you were telling me before you got on the Hangout.
And this was Russ Clarity's last appearance.
Charles?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, Charles. Talking about all these blades, nobody has mentioned the PS Wood blades. I love those things.
They're good,
great.
Especially the
More
polar.
expensive, but they're really, really good.
If you've ever tried the PS Wood polar blades, those things are incredible.
Where do you get them from?
PS Woods.
Okay. I guess I stepped into that one.
No, that's the kind of question I ask. When I ask a question, most people go, "Did they die?" All right,
They make the Timberwolf blades, so the scroll saw blades are awesome, just as good as a Timberwolf.
Oh yeah, Timberwolf is awesome. Okay, Russ? You said you had some questions from the outside chat.
Yes. Okay, Jeff Robinson wants to know what's the difference between a jewelry and a metal cutting blade. I think they're pretty much the same, other than one's a real smaller than the other. Like a jewelry, you can get them down into the 2 and 3/0 for fine cutting. The Ironman, as far as the Flying Dutchman, will cut jewelry. It's just they're a little bit bigger of a blade. They're more or less for like copper or brass or aluminum. Well, they've got Flying Dutchman has an aluminum cutting blade, but you can cut with them with that. That's the only thing that I know the difference between those. And then the other one was, how can you determine how much to sell your scroll saw work? Oh Lord!
Oh Lord, there's another hour-long show.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go into that into a show because it's like
A nutshell answer or bumper sticker, whatever you want to call it, is depends on where you live. The themes that sell well in that area, blah 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 blah. But I promise you, matter of fact, let's make that the topic of the next week's show, along with whatever else we can dream up. Is what sells where and pricing and all that kind of crud. But any week we do this show, if people still want to see it after how I started, the outside questions will dictate a lot of what is being said, but we'll come in with topics in case there aren't any questions. But
one thing I wanted to bring up from like a new scroller standpoint is when you first start cutting, your tendency is to push straight into the blade to cut a straight line, and you soon find out you've got to turn the workpiece to follow that straight line. You can't just cut straight. So, Steve mentioned in his presentation last Monday that it had something to do with the set of the teeth, and he mentioned a blade that you could get where you could eliminate some of that and try to cut straight into the blade. So Steve, what was that blade that you mentioned where you could cut more straight into the blade instead of having to cut at an angle to get straight cut?
There's two different methods for manufacturing blades. They can be milled or they can be ground. If they're milled, they leave a burr on the edge of the blade, and that burr, as you're pushing the blade through the wood, tends to make the blade want to drift. Usually, I guess you would call it to the left. The blade cuts to the left. If it's ground, that burr's not there. And one of the blades we were just talking about, the P.S. Woods Polar blades, they have almost no drift because they're ground. And then the one that you hear me talking about all the time is the Pegasus Modified Geometry. That is also, although I can't get the manufacturer to tell me their manufacturing process, so I don't know they're ground, but they cut like they're ground. They cut very straight. As a matter of fact, you'll even find every once in a while that they tend to drift the opposite direction. Just not much, just maybe a quarter of a degree or half a degree. But the modified geometry, if you push straight into the blade, it'll cut pretty straight.
Well, when you say it drifts the other direction, do you think that's because you spent so many years compensating for the other drift? Could it be
That's
you?
a good point, and that's real possible. Like I say, it's such a minor amount. I don't even know if it's just me causing it or if it's a blade, but they cut very, very straight.
It cannot be.
And as a matter of
good.
fact, if you're used to using the Flying Dutchman, the first time you go to the Pegasus Modified Geometry, you're going to struggle with it because you're coming into, let's say you're coming to a 90-degree turn. On a Flying Dutchman or any other blade that's milled, when you get to that point where you want to make the turn and you start to make your turn usually fairly quickly, you're having to guess the direction that blade's going to start cutting when you come out of that turn. And when you're so used to going past 90 degrees because of the compensation for the drift, when you come back to the modified geometry, it's going to come out and cut straight. And you'll have a tendency to overcut that turn when you first start using the modified geometry. So it takes a little bit of brain retraining, to get used to. But once you do, it's nice, especially for a beginner, because they're not expecting that drift. So that's just another thing about those blades. But the P.S. Woods Polar blades are also cut they're ground instead of milled. Another thing that happens when they're milling is the milling process. What they were talking earlier about Flying Dutchman blades sometimes having problems. You see more batches of bad Flying Dutchman blades than any other blade I've run into. They're great blades, but you'll get a batch every once in a while that just cuts like crap. And that's because they've let that milling machine they use to sharpen those blades, they're not changing out the cutters on it often enough. They get dull, then they don't cut the blades well enough, and then you get bad blades. So if you ever get a set of blades and you think, man, these are just no good, it's probably because they're no good.
Yeah, now you talked about the burr. If I'm correct, that burr is on the back side, the non-tooth side, right?
That's a debate. And I got my magnifying glass out and tried to prove one way or another. I've always been told that the burr was on the tooth.
Oh, I
Okay.
was always told on the back because
Right.
I heard about
And-
people sanding the back of it.
But I've heard it the other way too. So I got my magnifying glass out. That burr is so small that whatever my magnifying was, a 10x or whatever, I couldn't see it anywhere. I couldn't tell the difference between the ground blade and the milled blade, where I could actually see that burr. So it's a pretty small burr.
And we're running slightly long, but I don't care because we're scrollers and that's what we do. And it's premiere show, and I got to make up for the screwed up beginning. But real quickly, I am a very loyal scroll sawyer. So when I find something I like, I fear change. That's why I haven't tried flat blades, but I need to. But I know with Flying Dutchman, you get that from either mikesworkshop.com or woodenteddybear.com.
They're
Now,
the same.
Yeah. Oh,
They're
it'll
the
be
same
called.
company. Same company.
Yeah, it's the same company, most definitely. Mike Morlock passed away. He sold it before he died, obviously, but that's who ended up with it. But you can access it from both sites. Is why I was bringing that up.
It's better to get it from Mike's than from Wooden Teddy Bear.
Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because not every blade we've talked about, we haven't talked about where you can get them, except for PS Woods. That's where you get the Pegasus.
No, PS Wood they sell Olson and the PS Wood brand. I think that's the only two brands they sell.
Okay. Now, does anybody else know any other websites that sell scroll saw blades, or a specific brand?
Bear Wood sells the Pegasus. Yeah.
It's Pegas. They sell it. D&D sells the Pegasus, and there's one more, but I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, and every time, and Russ, it's because I love you. Every time you said Pegasus, I wanted to correct you, but I didn't want to.
Oh, shut up.
No, folks. For folks that don't know, there's a history that I got on his bad side one time because I corrected him too many times, and so every time he said Pegasus, I'm thinking, God, somebody please tell him. I'm sorry, Russ, but that was why I never said anything before. But
That's all right. Steve Good's coming just as bad as you are, as far as I'm.
No, Steve Good done told me that I am the reason he has to spend more time editing every time he says ideal.
Okay, they're Pegasus blade, just like rock lure, not rock gear.
Pegas. But regarding the giveaway, this is whether or not you're watching live or watching it later after it's gone dead. Gone dead. That's a little good terminology, Charles. All you have to do to enter this giveaway, I'm going to hold this up as long as I can. Write to that email address. It is artistic_, that's not a dash. And if you don't know how to do an underscore, you hold the shift key down and hit the dash key. The word cowboy and the number 30 at yahoo.com. I'll keep that held up for a while, and all you have to do is in the subject line write in all caps giveaway. And I have not received the second DVD yet, but when I do, that'll be included. One person will win. One person will win both DVDs. So that's how to enter the giveaway. That's all you need to do. And I'm gonna go. Today's Friday. Let's say Monday. I will announce and probably put up a YouTube video. The winner of the 2 DVDs. And if you want them autographed, let me know. I feel like I'm the type that needs to autograph, but maybe I'm just too proud. But if you want them autographed, I will do so. Does everybody have that email address?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and all you have to do is type in all caps. It has to be in all caps, or I might miss it because I'm Charles Deering. Just put the word giveaway. You can put anything you want except for smut in the actual body of the email. I'm intentionally covering my face because it's something you don't want to see right now. But that's all you have to do to enter the giveaway. And sometime Monday, I will announce the winner in a fair way, and I'll get with these guys that have done giveaways as to the best way to do that. And
Hey, Charles.
yo,
Draw 2 names. I'll throw something in too for you for the relaunch of the show. I'll throw in as a gift.
Much obliged. You might want to let people know what the gift is. I appreciate that, but they may determine whether or not they enter by what the gift is. And I mean all respect when I say that.
Okay.
People might be avoiding the giveaway because of what I'm giving away. But go ahead.
I'll throw in my CD with 50 different jigsaw puzzle patterns.
All right, 50 different jigsaw.
What'd you say, Charles?
I spoke incorrectly. You rubbing off on me, Russ. You thought you were going to get me, didn't you? No. So Carl Taylor is throwing in 50 some odd. I wasn't listening because I'm so nervous right now. The 50 different jigsaw puzzle designs on a CD, correct? Right? Yes.
Yes.
I'll hold up a picture of it. Just say.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to show my face again. I'm sorry for those of you that have weak stomachs. Now, I forgot what I was going to say. Every time I crack a stupid joke, Russ, say something.
I just was looking at the website for the Pegasus blades, Airwoods. Wow, those are a little pricey. The modified geometry skull saw blade. They're mostly sold by the dozen or gross.
No, you can get them by the dozen.
Okay.
Okay, one thing I'd like to add, and this is strictly for me. It's not mandatory, but for me, feedback is crucial. Let me know because I'd like to keep doing DVDs. I will still do project videos on my YouTube channel and everything, but I want to do more DVDs because I'm eating cardboard for lunch, but I'm kidding. Let me know in the body of the email that you do the giveaway in all caps in the subject line. Let me know other themes you would like to see done to learn how to do. Because the first one again is basic portraiture. The second one is vehicles, and the third one will likely be specific features of people. But if there's a theme you would like to, if I get enough feedback wanting a specific theme or I don't know how to finish that because I only do mine on paper, but you know, a style, a theme you want to see done because you think it differs from doing a vehicle or a portrait, let me know. And that's strictly for feedback purposes. It has nothing to do with the contest, except for that it's in the same email.
Okay.
I was just going to say, if anybody in the outside chat has any suggestions right now that they'd like to see in future DVDs, let me know. But go ahead, Russ.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, okay, now I see, Steve. There, you can get quantity 1 to 2 dozens, $4.32.
I usually pay right around $3.99 for 12 here, and that's in Canada.
Okay.
Let me say one more thing about Bear Woods. They're a Canadian company, and when you go to check out, if you don't select their small package shipping, you're going to pay way too much for shipping. You'll pay like $11 for shipping, which is crazy for blades. So, but after I fussed at him about that and told him that none of my readers were going to order from him, he went out and found a small package deal with USPS, and it's like $4 and something for shipping. So you want to make sure you check that because it doesn't automatically come up. If you just put it in the cart and hit pay, it charges you the higher shipping rate. So make sure you watch for that.
Is it an American
Yes.
company? What's their name?
D&D, and I can't remember. Let me pull it up here real quick. It's D&D.
I got it.
Something. You got it?
Yeah, D&D saw blades.
That's them.
Okay.
And I have a lot of readers that buy from them, and they're happy with them also.
Okay. I'm going to order. I've never tried them. I'm going to try them just for the heck of it, just to see how they cut.
Awesome. Also,
hey, Russ, send me your address, and I'll send you some.
Okay. I'll PM it to you.
Yep.
another thing I'm going to do because Steve Good has helped me, but to keep the workload of shut up, Charlie. Get the point out. What I'm going to do is at the end of this show, I will put links to where you can buy the DVDs that are already available if you don't want to go surfing the internet for them. But most of y'all are familiar with Steve's blog. He does have them linked there, but I will also put links in the description of this video, no matter how old it is. If that link changes, I'll change the links in the description.
I like to say something real quick. Brag.
Go ahead.
I don't have any DVDs out yet. Actually, you beat me to it. I'm working on one, but anyway, I've got to learn how to use Olson scroll saw blades. The reason being is I'm going to be teaching classes at the Rockler store in Orlando, Florida.
Cool.
Awesome. Very
Yeah, scroll saw
congratulations, sir.
classes. So
That
one
is
of the
awesome.
prerequisites is I have to use their machine, which is great. They're using DeWalt 788, so no big deal. I love them, and I have to use their brand of blades that they carry, which is Olson. So I've got to sharpen. I've got some Olson, but I'm going up there tomorrow to fill out some paperwork that I need to be hired, so to speak, and some other things. And then they're going to give me some more Olson blades and some free Baltic birch plywood to bring home to prepare for the classes. But yeah, I'll be teaching scroll saw classes a couple of times a month on a Saturday or Sunday, depending on when they get the classes scheduled, and there could be up to 10 people in a class.
Are they going to let you video it?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Steve.
Will they let you video it?
Yes, he said he didn't mind.
Cool.
Well, that's awesome. I'd like to see that video. If you don't mind, if you already said it, I apologize, but what location will you be at for people that might be in the area?
It's Orlando, Florida, the Altamont Springs Rockler store in
Awesome.
Orlando, Florida.
Very happy for you. Okay, are there any more questions or comments or cut downs in the outside chat?
No, there is Jeff Robinson said he orders Pegasus blades from D&D. They're $3.95 shipping. Katie Dotson wants to know, does Pegasus make a spiral blade?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Charles Deering and Donna Presley want to know where the heck Katie Dotson was in Georgia, or why she wasn't in Georgia.
Yeah, you didn't show up, Katie. I thought you
were
were
looking.
there.
We're looking all over for her.
He was sick.
Oh, well, okay. Donna Presley didn't want to know anymore because nobody told me she was sick.
Oh,
And
well,
sorry, Robert Evans wasn't able to make it either. He was supposed to and didn't get.
Oh
to make
yeah,
it
and a lot of people are saying about the Delta scroll saw. Yeah, Delta makes the scroll saw. It's almost identical. Well, it was for a long time when they first started making it, identical to the DeWalt 788. They have somewhat changed it a little bit in the looks, but from my understanding, it's still the same saw as the 788 pretty much. I don't remember the number for. Do you remember the number for the new DeWalt or the new Delta, Steve?
4695.
4695.
Is that all one word or 40-695?
40-695.
Okay.
Yeah, when the Delta first came out, when they started making them, our local woodcraft store had a sale on them for $299 with the light and stand.
Yep.
Yeah, I ran straight over. It's about a 45-minute drive from my house, but I ran straight over and bought one. At that price, I'm like, I'll have it. I'll keep it in the box if I have to and leave it over there. If something happens, if mine breaks, my DeWalt breaks down, I'll bring it out. But I went ahead and took it out of the box and used it, and there is a little difference. I can tell a little difference in the DeWalt and the Delta in cutting. It's hard to explain, but I can tell a little bit of difference. But other than that, it cuts great, just like this. No vibration hardly, cuts just as good.
Well, now, Russ, I don't have a clever song yet, but
oh Lord, you're gonna sing
eventually. Russ, no, hush. I'm the one that holds up the lighter when you sing. You know me like that. No, that's only to burn my ears. But can you want to tell if y'all think Russ is pretty, Russ Clarity? He has a show on Saturday nights. You want to tell folks about that for the three that might not have seen it before?
Sure. My show is on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my channel on YouTube live, just like this show, Simply Wooden Creations. And it's Let's Talk Shop with Russ.
And he is banned from singing that song on this show because I want to come up with one.
Just give me some of this.
Oh, kiss my butt. That was a hell of a way to end the show, Charlie. I'd like to thank Donna Presley, Carl Taylor, Russ Meadows, Russ Clarity, Steve Carmichael, Steve Good, Trevor Carter, and especially the internet for letting me finally get this show going. And I apologize for the delay and the shaky beginning.
What was it?
Bloody
A couple of
crud.
people, couple of people, and they want you to explain the giveaway again. I guess they come in later, didn't hear it. So
I thought you were trying to be funny. So
no, I wasn't. I just have to see that. I want to make sure that they knew.
Okay, I put a note to myself to put the DVD links in the description, so ignore that. Go to this email address, artistic_cowboy30@yahoo.com, and in the subject line, in all capital letters, put in the word giveaway, no matter how you spell it. I know how to spell it. I'm just saying, if you don't, that's fine. I'll figure it out. In the body, if you so choose, put future themes you would like to see me teaching you to do of how I make patterns of. Do those same people let me know when those same people have everything they need, Russ, and I'll pull it down.
I think they should have it. I mean, yeah, it's artistic_cowboy30@yahoo.com. Send an email to that, and in the subject line, in caps, put
Giveaway. And in the body, tell me how much you love me, and that betters your odds of winning. I'm kidding. But Monday, sometime Monday,
I am than Charles.
Something like that. This is my Russ Clarity starter kit. Anyway, stop trying to be funny. So we're just gonna. I thanked everybody on the panel. Thank y'all for watching very much. Next week we'll be a little more organized, and hopefully the tech problems will be gone. I appreciate your support. Please go buy the DVDs, because not everybody's going to win. Only one person. The DVD links will be in the description of this video. But since I don't have a clever song, I'm just going to go back to my old thing and tell you. Scroll on.